Hallie with Handmade by Hallie here. Welcome to my next video. In this video, we are going to make a tiered tray with these items from Hobby Lobby. I have some 9-inch round discs, a 6-inch round disc, some beads, some paint, some adhesive, and plaster paint. First thing I'm going to do is take this adhesive and some hot glue and glue 2 of these 9-inch wood discs together. These were a little thinner than I wanted them to be, so putting them together is going to make it doubled and a little bit stronger. So because I'm going to do beads in between these 2 layers, I'm going to do 2 sets of 2. I just make sure to stack something heavy and set them aside. Next, I'm going to take my beads and I am going to first cut the tag off and as much of the knot as I can on the end. Take some of that adhesive that I got from the Dollar Tree, kind of measure this out, and I'm going to use both this adhesive and some hot glue and get those beads on there. And I am leaving the beads on the string that it came with. This will help them stay more in order than if I place the beads on the disc by themselves. So I just layer my glue, put the beads on, and continue to go around till I have it all covered. And I'm doing this before I paint because the paint will make it harder for the glue to stick onto the wood. So I'm just cutting off the knot on one end and cutting off the beads so that they will glue in place. Make sure to snip off any glue strings that you've got going. You don't want those. We will end up painting everything and those make it harder to paint. Now I do go around and add another layer of glue on the outside and the inside to make sure these beads are fully glued in place. You want to make your glue as even as you can get it because we will paint over this glue, and doing that evenly will make your piece look a little bit nicer. So we've got that one done, and let's work on the larger set. I'm going to do the same thing, doing the adhesive and the hot glue, and getting those in place. This adhesive that I'm using is kind of like an E6000 type thing that takes 24 hours to dry, so that's why I use the combination of the 2 glues. The hot glue for the immediate stay and the adhesive for the permanent stay. And again, I'm putting the beads on before I paint it. It's the paint first and then the glue. Sometimes the glues don't want to stick to the paint, especially when it's fresh paint. So once we get this finished, we'll go on to our next part. I'm hoping this is a project you're going to like and you're going to want to repeat. These tiered trays have really become a big thing. I know I already have one in my home that I like to decorate for different holidays. Again, pull off any glue strings, and I'm going to add that glue around the outside and the inside of this project, making sure the beads are secure onto that wood disc. Okay, so next we are going to paint, and this is Waverly chalk paint in the color of plaster, and I'm going to do everything in 2 coats of this Waverly chalk paint. The beads that I got from Hobby Lobby, they do come in different colors. I did choose the white ones to work with so that I didn't have to do a lot of painting, but I do have a couple of strands of different colors for different projects. And we'll set this aside. We'll work on the bigger ones. And what I am pulling out here that I forgot to do, this is the bottom of the bottom tray. And I do have these wood balls that are flat on one end, and I am doing the same thing with the adhesive and the hot glue and putting them on the bottom of that tray before I paint it. And these didn't get quite as square as I wanted them to be, but in the end, no one's really going to look at where they're placed. And then we're going to paint with that Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, giving that one coat, letting it thoroughly dry, and then doing a second coat. I think those wood balls end up actually having a third coat to get them fully covered. Next, we're going to put these other beads that I drilled a hole in onto a wood skewer, and I am going to put hot glue to keep that skewer from poking out on one end. Then I'm going to pull the beads apart, and I'm going to put hot glue in between. I'm just making sure the bottom of that one is flat, as if it's not flat, then it will make our tray crooked. Now in this part, I did end up going back and adding more glue after I got it all together. So what I learned here is, after I got these individually glued and in place, I should have gone back and filled the gap, because the bottom of the bead is flat and then the top of the next bead is round. You end up having a little bit of a gap. And so I did end up going in and putting some more hot glue in there and then painting over that. And at that point, you can't really see it. So here, go ahead and put some glue on the top to secure it in place. And then I'll just leave that stick until we're ready to cut it for putting our 2 pieces together. And then next, I'm going to start the painting process. Again, these beads, I think, take at least 2, if not 3 coats to make sure they're fully covered. So if you're liking this project and you're liking my channel, would you please hit the like button? Feel free to comment. Let me know what you'd like to see next, what you've been wanting to learn. And then most of all, please subscribe and then watch my videos. I could really use some more watch hours. So go through my channel and watch the full videos, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. So when I get this all painted, I'm going to set it off to the side and give a second coat later. So I'm making sure to cover the center here. What I am going to be doing on the larger pieces, the beads are gonna be sandwiched between the 2 pieces, and then the smaller discs will be the top and the beads will be underneath that wood disc. So again, anything that's painted gets at least 2 coats, if not 3, here or there, just making sure that everything is nice and even and painted. So here I'm tipping it up on the side to make sure to get the sides of the beads and the side of the smaller round. The smaller round is quite a bit thicker than the larger rounds, so it takes just a little bit more painting than the larger rounds do. And the larger rounds, you want to make sure that you paint both the underneath and the top portion of that bottom tier. You really probably won't see in between those beads, but just in case, you want to make sure you give that underneath portion 2 coats of the white paint before gluing together. So here you can see I'm putting an extra layer of glue on the inside to make sure those beads stay. That glue stick doesn't want to move through the tract in the glue gun, so I had to give it a little push. But again, like I said before, plenty of glue is fine, making sure to get rid of any glue strings and making your glue nice and neat, because we are going to paint over all of it. So this one's ready for its white coat of paint. So we're going to quickly get that done. I think here I'm going in with a small brush in between the beads to make sure to get everything for the main parts of the painting. I use a larger brush and it gets most of the beads, but sometimes when we want to get in there and make sure everything's evenly coated, you have to do that with the smaller brush, and that's what I'm doing here. I enjoy painting. As you can see on my hands here and there, I do end up making a big mess when I'm painting. I usually get it everywhere. That's why I wear an apron when I paint, so I don't get it on my clothes. So I'm going on the inside now that that glue is dried. So I cover all that glue. And that makes it kind of disappear. In real time, I wish I could paint this fast. No, not really. But it's nice to be able to do a recorded video where I can speed it up a bit. So next what we're doing is taking a gray mixed paint that I have in my stash, and I'm doing a dry brush technique that I'm adding that to the beads, to the sides of the boards, and to the tops and underneath of each of the rounds. And that just gives it a little bit more kind of antiquing, is kind of what this does. And there are lots of different methods of doing this. This has been my preferred method for a while, is doing the dry brush method. And I do go for a bigger brush when I'm doing the larger rounds. It makes it go on a little bit more evenly than the smaller brush. I just go ahead and do that to everything before I start gluing things together, making sure that everything looks the same they've been coated twice with the plaster, and now we're doing the dry brush with the gray. And make sure you get both bottoms and these large wood beads that go in the center. This kind of makes our stand. And in the end, I'm pretty pleased with the way everything is turning out. Hope you're liking it too. So here what I'm doing is marking the center so I know where my large beads are going to go. And I decided that I want to add this little beaded rickrack, and I add it to both of the large discs on the bottom, and then when I get to the smaller disc, because that one is thicker, I add it to the bottom edge of that. And part of what this does, especially with the discs that I have sandwiched together, is putting this on right where that seam is, and it makes that seam disappear. And I really like adding this. I wasn't planning on adding this, but I decided after I was getting things done, I didn't like seeing that seam. And I had some of this in my stash for some of my upcoming videos for Easter things, and I'm going to have to go get more because I ended up using all the rest of it in this project. But that's okay. Right now, Hobby Lobby had their ribbon for 40% off, so it makes it for a good deal. So this is the second disc, and this goes pretty quickly once you start doing it. When you get to the end here, I just pull it over and overlap just a little bit, so you kind of hide where the seam is. Now we're going to go ahead and do our glue. And sandwich those together. And I put my rocks on there to hold that in place while I'm putting that rickrack on the bottom edge of that thicker one. So it goes on the bottom edge of the round, but above where the beads are on this one. So while it's the same design, it changes up each section just a little bit. And I think I have this all ready, so we're ready to move on to the next part. Here I'm measuring to make sure the beads sit in the center of each disc. I just take my ruler and measure and adjust where needed. This is an important step to make sure that everything stands straight and centered. Don't skip this part. Continue this for both the large discs and the smaller disc. So here we are with everything all done. and I'm going to drill a hole in the center that I've marked on the smaller disc. That one is thicker, so I'm not afraid of going all the way through and drilling that a couple times and then cutting it just a little bit shorter. So then after I get that all ready, I'm going to clean off my eraser marks or my pencil marks and add some glue. I did go back and add more glue, and then now I'm ready to set this in place. And here you can see it's a little bit wobbly, so I just added more glue and it ended up being more secure. And here's your finished project. Thanks for watching.